Hi everyone, this is Bobby from Beyond-Games.com, and this is part 2 of the Sega Saturn refurbishment, let's call it that. If you are just joining us, there's a part 1 video where we replaced my US Saturn with a replacement shell from GameTech.US's store, and I would highly recommend checking that out if you want to see that. In this video, we're going to take my Japanese Sega Saturn, and we're going to retrobrite it. We're going to install a TerraOnion Mode. We're going to put an SD card mount reader for the case by LaserBear Industries and put it all together and see how well the RetroBrite goes. We're going to try to restore this thing. So this is going to be a much longer form video. It's going to be longer just in how many steps there are and what I did. It's not meant to be a tutorial, just kind of what I did in an end product. If you have any questions, I'll answer what I put below, you know, we'll go from there. So just to add a little bit of context, I did not own a Sega Saturn when they were brand new. In fact, I don't think I knew anyone or know anyone who owned a Sega Saturn when it was new. In fact, my US Saturn, which if you watched the previous video, I've had that for about 11 years or so. I purchased it when I was already an adult and was already, you know, working, making money. So I don't have a huge affinity for it, like a childhood affinity for it, but I always wanted one. I'd always seen it in the gaming magazines, and I always knew that, you know, by word of mouth, that it was a arcade port machine, although I think of the Dreamcast more in that light than the Sega Saturn, even though it does. I don't know, a lot of the arcade games that I really liked, like Third Strike and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and that sort of thing, I have a much stronger affinity for those. So when I think of the Dreamcast, I think of those more, besides Shenmue, obviously. This Japanese Saturn I bought about 2 years or so ago, and I meant to do the retrobriting process then. When I bought it for super cheap. I think I paid $50 or something like that, because the seller said junk. You know, it was one of those things where I wasn't sure if it was going to work, and I thought I'd take a chance. I'd always wanted a white Saturn after I had seen pictures of it. I'd never seen one in person. And then eventually I did see one in person at some game store in Anaheim, and they wanted like $300 for it, and I wasn't paying that kind of money for the console. When I came across this one, it was one of those, you know, like I said, junk, and I figured, well, maybe I can fix it. Maybe it's something simple, you know, I don't know. We'll check it out. I even thought about swapping the US motherboard into it, possibly, because I had read, you know, you could do that if you wanted to. So I bought it. It arrived. It was yellowed. Not the worst yellowing I've ever seen on a console, but it was still pretty bad, as you can see in the video. In fact, I don't think the video really shows how yellow it is compared to real life. I've tried to color grade it as best as possible, but it's a little more intense in person than what shows up on film, and after YouTube compression or whatever, it's probably even worse. But I intended to do this process, and I've been watching people do retrobriting for a while now, specifically the 8-Bit guy. A lot of his videos on retrobriting I had watched, and I had seen his experiments with different types of plastic in different methods and those sorts of things. And I've seen people do other, you know, like Super Nintendos and that sort of thing with different processes. I've never done this before, never done the retrobriting process, so this was going to be the experiment. And the test I'm doing, or the methodology I'm doing here, is a combination of multiple factors from multiple people. And I'll go into that when I get to that point in the video. But I've taken ideas from everybody and tried to put them together to see if we get kind of results. So whether it's perfect or not, you know, you'll be the judge. Whether it could have been more effective or not, I'm sure someone out there will comment and say, you should have done this or whatever. And I'm sure there's things I've done here that are probably incorrect or not as well, but I did get a good result. Spoilers, I think I got a really good result, but maybe it could have been a little better. I don't know. We'll see. So as I said, bought this Sega Saturn, meaning to repair it, and when I received it, I plugged it in with power, stuck a game in it, because, you know, I got most of my Sega Saturn games are Japanese because of cost, and it worked. No problems. It worked. And then I set it aside and I forgot about it for a while, as, you know, life goes and as different projects came through and that sort of thing, with the intention that I would come back and eventually do this. So I eventually started watching a lot of videos on the TerraOnion mode and seeing, that ODE. I've already done, if you've been subscribed to the channel, you might have seen my Dreamcast one where I did a clone GD-EMU. And the Sega Saturn, that's probably even better for me because I have a large Dreamcast. I have a lot of the US releases that I already want physically, I already have that library, but I don't have that for the Sega Saturn. And unfortunately, the Sega Saturn is getting to be very expensive to collect for. It's getting to Neo Geo AES prices, and that's just ridiculous. So the TerraOnion mode allows me to try games that are unobtainable by normal means. I regret that I didn't buy Panzer Dragoon Saga for $300 about 10 years ago. Now it's what, $1,000, $1,200, depending what condition it's in, So I'll finally get to play those games because of the mode. And that is why I'm installing it. It's making the system more accessible to me. It's on real hardware. That's super important to me because I try to avoid emulation as much as possible. And I'll still collect Sega Saturn games. I'll still buy them as I can. But some of these games, it's impossible. It's just completely impossible. So, with that all being said, we're going to disassemble the Sega Saturn, clean it up, RetroBrite it, install this TerraOnion mode, and reassemble it and put everything together, and I'll talk over the pieces and we'll, go step by step. Again, this is not a tutorial, but you'll see the process if this is something that you're interested in trying to do. And, if you have any questions, put them below and I'll answer what I can. So let's get started.
This project's been a long time coming, but I got everything I need here together to refurbish the Saturn, hopefully to be as close to new as possible and as functional as possible. I'm not quite sure what was stuck on this Saturn, but you can see that it's slightly less yellowed there. Maybe a sticker, but when I received the Saturn, there was nothing there. Even the inside of the disc tray is pretty yellow. This should be closer to white, but it's much closer to the Saturn's original color. But as you can see, nicotine gets everywhere because that's very likely where this discoloration is coming from. Marco offered to help me with this project, and right now what he's doing is foiling the inside of this clear container that we're going to use for the retrobriting process. We're putting the foil shiny side up because the idea is hopefully that the light will refract and cover other areas of the plastic when the light is pointed down. You'll see here in a couple minutes. I originally thought this tub was going to be too big, but it actually turned out to be a little too small with all the parts taken out, but we got it to work. Once the tub was ready, we started doing some disassembly. We needed to get the Saturn completely torn apart so we could get the plastic pieces put in and aligned inside the tub. You know, despite the color of the outside of the case, I was shocked at how dirty the inside of the case was. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. It actually was pretty bad in here, and it only gets worse as we start disassembling more. Shortly after taking off the top components, we found a bunch of rust on this plate, and it should have been obvious then that somebody actually spilled something in this Saturn at some point. And here you can see all the rust and eventually the syrup and whatever else is in here. Somebody spilled like a soda in this thing. Before starting the retrobriting process, we scrubbed every piece of plastic that was going to be retrobrited with some soap and scrub brush, as you can see here. Thankfully, the syrup came off pretty quickly and fairly easily. This is a pretty good result for only a couple minutes of scrubbing. For this retrobriting process, we're not going to rely on the sun, but rather we're going to rely on these ultraviolet lamps, 50 watts each. The 8-bit guy used these in one of his videos, and they seem to work pretty well, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to place all the pieces of plastic in this shell, in this tub, and then put the lights above it. Now, before you go trying to crucify me in the comments, we are using a magic eraser to try to get rid of some of the gunk that's on the case. This is like a light sandpaper, but if you use it very, very lightly and be very delicate, it won't remove a lot of material. And some of the parts here that were dirty, like this weird blue, we think it's paint, couldn't get it off with just normal scrubbing, so we had to use the magic eraser to get it as clean as possible. It's not only the console that needs to be taken apart, it's also the controller, because the controller, to some extent, is actually more yellow than the console. So we had to take this apart and put those pieces inside with the console pieces as well. Here we have my makeshift rig with the lights hanging off a couple of broom handles, and they're turned onto the bottom. And this is the basic setup for the retrobriting process that we're going to start out with. We're going to use a liquid solution. It's a mix of hot water and the hydrogen peroxide, and let the lights do the work. Admittedly, the light here is actually brighter in person than the camera picks up, but you get the idea. While the Sega Saturn pieces were cooking, it was time to get the mode ready. I had already prepared an SSD drive with all the games and files necessary, and it was time to get the mode set up and in the mounting bracket of the LaserBear Industries kit. After watching LaserBear Industries' video on installing this kit, I decided to buy it pre-assembled because it was only a couple bucks more, and I wanted to make sure that the kit was all together correctly. They had all the screws in the right places, and all I had to do was get it screwed into the plate, as you can see here. Admittedly, these little screws are a little difficult to get in for the first couple, but once you get them in, the rest is pretty easy. After getting the base screwed in, I removed the top part because you need to do that in order to get the mode installed. So at this point, you might notice that the pieces are individually wrapped in plastic, and I didn't show that before. And the reason is I didn't actually film that part. We originally did the water solution, as I had mentioned, with the hydrogen peroxide and the hot water as mentioned. And after about 6 hours, I noticed that the results were going very slowly. I didn't think it was actually going to finish. So what I ended up doing is I started using the other process of using the Salon goo hydrogen peroxide, which is why I'm wearing gloves, and then wrapping them in the plastic and then putting them back in and letting it run overnight because this was day 2. So they were under the lights for about, I don't know, 16 hours combined, 12 hours being with in the plastic with that goop stuff, and the result worked much faster. It actually came out pretty good, as you can see here. Once the pieces were dry, all I had to do was reassemble everything. I don't know about you, but I think that came out really good. One unfortunate part of this restoration is I really couldn't do anything about the rust on any of the metal pieces, so I had to use what I, had on hand, and maybe eventually I'll replace them if I can find some spare ones. It is shockingly easy how to install the TerraOnion mode into a Sega Saturn, at least a Model 2 Sega Saturn. If you do have a Model 2 Sega Saturn and you're looking to get the TerraOnion mode, do it yourself. Don't pay someone to mod this. There's nothing to it. It uses the same ribbon cable as this, the CD-ROM drive. You use the same power cable. You plug it in. It's as plug and play as you can really get it. There's nothing really difficult about this process. Basically, anyone can do it with a screwdriver. The most difficult part of the TerraOnion mode installation is actually getting power direct from the power supply to the board. It does come with a power cable that you have to sort of splice in, but with this Mobius Strip Technologies mode plug-and-play power board, which fits under the power supply, it actually makes it super simple. So if you are doing this, it's only a couple bucks. I really recommend it. It will make this installation much, much easier and much cleaner. Once the mode was installed and we got the power connected, it was time to put the top part of the mounting bracket of the LaserBear Industries kit, which is an SD card reader. It makes it very convenient to put SD cards in from the top of the case without having to open it all the time. It was time to screw that down. I will admit, it is a bit of a tight fit. It did take some finessing the plastic a little bit as I was screwing it down, and I did screw it down in a cross pattern. I would recommend doing that as well. Just be very careful and take your time. I would also say, if you're going to get this kit, make sure your hard drive is completely set up, because it's very unlikely you're going to want to take this hard drive out once you've done this installation. Once the installation is done, though, it looks really good, and I'm very impressed with how it works and how it fits. Now it's time for final assembly. And there it is, she's done. Retrobrited, TerraOnion moded, everything is ready to go. Now, I will admit, the Sega Saturn didn't come out as white as I was hoping, but in comparison to what it did look like before the retrowriting process, it's night and day. And the controller, I think, looks even better than the console does. I think it came out even better. And to really illustrate the point, this is what they both look like side by side, and what it looks like brand new. Now it's time to do some testing. The Sega Saturn is connected via SCART to my OSSC, to an HDMI splitter, to both my capture card, and I will be recording with my camera on the side, and we'll do some split cuts. One of the problems with recording with a analog to digital converter, as you can see here, is sometimes the image displays faster than it does on the capture card and vice versa, which is why I'm kind of showing the side by side here, as you can see, picture in picture. I currently have both the entire US and Japanese Sega Saturn libraries on here. This is a 1 terabyte drive, but the video games I'm going to be showing you are ones that I actually own a physical copy of.
Round one, fight!
Sega Rally Championship. 3, 2, 1, go! Very long, easy right. Long, easy right, baby. Very long, easy left. Okay, come on. Medium left. Medium left, maybe. Long, medium right.
What I had also intended to do was show some gameplay of me using my custom arcade stick, which has an RJ45 connection and a PS360 board, so I could play Sega Saturn games on it. Unfortunately, the cable that I bought that goes into this port, even though it has a Sega Saturn end, was not working correctly. It actually was just, I would boot the game or boot the Saturn up, and it would just act as if it was pressing one button over and over again, and I couldn't get it to work, even though this particular controller works on everything else. It works on the PS2, works on the PC, and that sort of thing. The PS360 board that's in it, as far as I'm aware, is really not developed for anymore, so eventually we'll replace this with like a Brook fighting board and give it a shot then.
Are you ready, true believers? Capcom and Marvel have joined forces once again to bring you in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter! One spectacular action! Don't miss out on the enjoyment of a lifetime! Behold, amazing services! Don't miss the most amazing tag team fighting game ever! Are you ready for a new challenger? History! Come join Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter! Choose your alter ego! Ready, fight! First attack!
Okay, good luck. Select your battle fighter. Okay, good luck.
One thing I'll say is it does not really help load times, the TerraOnion mode, but everything so far I've thrown at it works as if it was a real disc.
Wing leader to base. Wing leader to base. Commencing operation. 3, 2, 1, go! First stop, enemy outpost. Let's see what you got. Looky what we got here, a multi-assault tank. Watch yourself, kid. Just a couple more shots! Alright, let's get it, kid! Bandits closing in. Watch your tail. Power up. Bomber! Power up! Please continue. Select your battle fighter. Power up! Keep it up!
So I'm filming this about 2 weeks after filming all of this, setting up the US Saturn with the clear shell and retrobriting the Japanese Saturn with the TerraOnion. And I can tell you the TerraOnion is great. I love it. I've been using it, and I have had no issues with any games that I've loaded so far. And I like it so much that I'm probably going to buy another one, and I'm going to probably replace the GDEMU clone in my Dreamcast with it. Because I really like the menu system better, and the file format stuff seems to work better. And I like the fact that I can put it on an SSD or a hard drive, whatever, instead of having to deal with smaller SD cards and swapping them. That was really annoying. So I'm really impressed with that. As far as the retrobriting is concerned, it is unfortunate that the water bath version of it didn't work. And the fact that I had to go to the cream version, where it used that cream peroxide stuff that you saw me wrap it in the plastic. But that seemed to actually do the trick. That seemed to work better than the liquid. I'm not sure why. Maybe I put too much water and not enough of the hydrogen peroxide. I'm not 100% sure. But I can tell that if I had left it in the liquid solution, it had probably taken a week or more to get a similar result, and I think that cream really did the trick. And the reason I didn't want to do the cream is I had seen multiple projects where people have done, retrobrited with that stuff, and it's left streaks in the plastic, like you can see where it just wasn't even during that process. Those UV lights seem to work really well, though. I'm glad I bought those. I think maybe a combination of that and doing the plastic wrap with the cream peroxide, I don't know what else you would call it. I think that's really what did the trick. Now, initially, when I saw the end result after I had put it together, I didn't think it looked all that great. I thought that it was still yellow, or I thought I saw hints of it. I think I was expecting it to come out like Snow White, well, that was the hope anyway. I wanted it to be brighter, I guess was the case. And even now, it's right across from me. It's whiter, but it has like a grayish tone to it almost in real life. But I didn't really realize how much better it looked until I started editing what you've seen so far. As I was editing, its original version, untouched before we did any cleaning of any sort, before putting it into the retrobriting process, and then the end result now, it's like night and day. For me, it was hard to tell initially, but now it's really apparent. And the controller, I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but the controller looks even closer to the original white color that I've seen in pictures and seen brand new ones of. So yeah, it worked really well. Please put in the comments if you think I should have done something differently, or maybe why the liquid version. I'm sure one of you who'll be watching this will be able to tell me what I might have done better, might have changed. I originally also thought I might take it apart again and try to do the retrobriting one more time, but I'm probably not going to do it now. I think the result is good enough the way it is. It looks good, and the things that I do want to replace is that rust. I want to replace those I/O shields if possible. Maybe even the top metal shield if I can find a spare Saturn that's not working. Because, man, I was not expecting to open it up and find that syrup. Somebody didn't take care of this thing. It was apparent when you take a closer look at it, because even on the eject button, the red eject button in the front, it looks like somebody took a cigarette butt and like burned the button, like they used the cigarette butt to open the lid or something like that. And obviously someone spilled soda in it. That might be why the seller thought it didn't work. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't power on at the time, and after some time it just worked again. I do know that I had left the Saturn on for about 2 days running, because I didn't want to go through this whole process and then find out it wasn't working. So I had left it on for about 2 days running Donpachi. So with that all being said, it's been a very interesting project. The Retrobriting process, the TerraOnion Mode installation, getting that all prepared, just disassembling, putting the Sega Saturns together again. Never had done that before, never had opened one up before, so it's been a very fun project, and I have more in the works. I have an Xbox coming, Crystal Xbox from Europe, that I'm going to be getting on US Power soon, and I'll be probably filming some of that process. Might be doing some mods there. I'm probably going to do those Dreamcast mods I mentioned before, like a Noctua fan mod, battery replacement mod. I also got to fix two of my Dreamcasts, the controller ports. I need to fix the fuse because they don't work when you plug them in. So a lot of that stuff I'll probably record, in a very similar fashion to what you're seeing right now. So I have some projects in the works with that kind of stuff, and I'm really enjoying this sort of thing, these refurbishment projects. So anyway, if you have any questions, put them below. All the links to everything I've purchased, the parts and so that sort of thing will be in the description below as well. Hope to have more up soon, so please subscribe and let me know what you think. Thank you.